Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests and get you the best concepts and strategies. Today's special guest is Joey Lowery. Joey built his agency from scratch after being fired for questioning ethics. The first year, they achieved over seven figures in sales. Today, he works as a consultant, coach, and public speaker on the Digital Summit Tour across the United States. Today, we're talking about how you can't spell assistant without AI. Joey, welcome to the show.
Richard, thanks for having me. I appreciate jumping on here.
Great to have you here, Joey. And as I ask all of my guests, Joey, where in the world are you?
Yep. So I'm actually in Florida. So we got a little time difference.
Just a little bit. Yeah, that's all cool, though. But I've been to Florida a few times. Beautiful part of the world. Absolutely beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. Joey, let's get into this. So I can't go past the start of the conversation without asking you to tell me a little bit about your history, specifically that line about getting fired for questioning ethics. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was definitely a shocker. I will say, the perseverance and pushing through some things allowed this company that I started on my own to happen. And I would not be sitting here having a conversation with you if that situation did not happen. But yeah, no, I was working for a company and I won't mention who they are out of respect to them.
Now, please
But
don't. Legal reasons, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of those things where I was a highly commissioned salesperson. I had no background in
Hmm.
marketing and no background in sales, anything like that. Basically, what I was seeing in our Google Analytics for the client and what we were reporting on in our dashboard given to the client was not adding up. And as every
Oh, that's not good.
salesperson, no, and every salesperson knows, you want to keep your clients and keep on building. And I was losing clients left and right, let alone bringing them on. And it just seemed like there's this issue, continuously happening, and some of the other sales guys are having issues too. And so let's just say one night, after a couple months of us digging into this, me and a couple of the sales guys, I had a
Mhm.
few drinks at a digital marketing conference I was working at the time, and so that
Few
night we
glasses
all
of personality kicked in, yeah.
yes, it was, and a few shots of it too as well. Um,
Ah, okay.
which is pretty normal for us at the marketing conference day
In
one.
sales, this is part of the culture usually.
It is, yeah. And actually
Been
what
there.
happened was I brought it all up to the team, and my boss overheard it, and I thought I was wearing the red cape of, "Hey, look, I found an issue. I think we can solve this." And next thing you know, the next day at the conference in North Carolina, I actually was fired on the spot. And all they said
Wow.
was, "I just don't think our values align here anymore."
Which
And
they
I can't
clearly
say
didn't.
no, it did not. And I can't say 100% I was right, but I definitely believe I wasn't wrong. Let's just say that.
Enough said. Let's not delve into that anymore. So, tell us a little bit about your history as well, your background. Where you from?
Yeah. So, born and raised in Missouri, in the Midwest of the United States. And honestly, just kind of fell into this whole marketing and AI and let's call it digital ad world, and I love it with all my heart. Just one of those guys that really believe that you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it, but
Mhm.
with a lot of education that you bring on yourself, whether it's books, YouTube, things like that. But yeah, just want to call it your friendly neighborhood Joe that just happens to work in digital marketing.
Friendly neighborhood, and then you sat on a Spider-Man chair. I can see the connection there straight away.
Yep. And
I
actually, when
get
I
it.
ordered this chair, I had no idea that it was a Spider-Man one. I actually was wanting a different one, but it actually works.
No, it absolutely is cool, and love the chair. It's fantastic. I may have to see if I can get one myself now.
Yeah,
Anyway, let's get into the real topic of today.
Mhm.
Although I would love to talk about Spider-Man all day. That's a different
Yeah.
thing entirely. You can't spell assistant without AI.
Mhm.
Tell us what you mean by this.
Yeah. So I think, when kind of coming up with the idea for, a topic, to chat about, the one thing that I think we're going to really walk into is a role of completely leaning on AI as our assistant, whether it's
Mhm,
booking, even from an outside personal world of booking our hotels to planning our vacations. I know Google and, a lot of these, it's called travel situations, are really working on some
mhm,
really cool stuff. On top of that, in the business world, I mean, from auto dialers to deep fake voice situations, I think the world of what we can rely on AI when it comes to assisting it's going to be a game changer. And I don't even know if we realize how much of a game changer it's going to be. And I see it already in what we do and how we perform, and just the autonomy, the automation, all this stuff being brought into one opportunity, in the sense of what we're trying to accomplish with whatever we're using it for. It's
mhm.
just the scalability is just amazingly there. And it's just, I believe it really is going to be the, your third arm that's attached to you when it comes to just everything you're doing in personal and
Mhm.
business.
So that's a really interesting point you make right at the end there. It doesn't matter whether it's personal or business. AI, you think, is going to impact, hopefully in a positive way, every facet of your life.
Yeah, I think we're going to run into some issues too with privacy, and I mean we see this with
Hmm.
Google and cookies all the time. I actually set up a Google alert around facial recognition, so I get a lot of. I had to kind of turn it off because it gets a little too creepy with when you hear about like lawsuits and law cases and what the government, wherever you're at, is what they're doing
Hmm.
with AI and facial recognition. So I had to take a step back on that one personally, but I think we're going to be affected by AI more than we ever could imagine. And I think we're going to blame AI for a lot of problems that really are human based, because I do
Hmm.
think there's still a characteristic that sits behind that computer and that code. And I think we got to be careful not to blame the tool and realize that it's maybe the fingers actually to be blamed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of things there to unpack. I read years ago, a very, very long time ago, in fact, about an AI system that would analyze people's walk and use it like a fingerprint. So they could, even though you could wear a mask and a hoodie, you could be walking along and they could work out who you are and these sorts of things. And then I
Hmm.
read about the compass system, which is used in the legal system in the US, which is used to identify what type of sentence somebody should potentially get.
Yeah.
And judges are actually now using it to define exactly what should be, which is not what it's there for. So it's the judge, not the AI, that's doing the actual damage.
Yeah. And I heard a talk. I don't necessarily agree with it 100%, but I like the angel and devil situation a lot. I always listen to,
Mhm,
no matter what. If I disagree with you about something or I have my own disagreements internally, I will listen to the other affirming statements, of why they believe what they believe and
mhm.
where their opinion comes from, no matter how strongly I may be against it, because I do believe we need to have a foundation of what is being said and why it's being said, even though we may disagree with it. And I kind of heard this one talk. I really enjoyed the metaphor, the analogy that he was utilizing was, we talk about guns killing people and things like that. He goes, we have to really be careful when we talk about AI, just in the same way. We don't know if it's human or we don't know if it's the machine, and we're going to see a lot of blame game. And not to discredit saying that it won't have a guilty side on the AI,
Yeah.
but we really have to look at intention when we dive into AI.
Yeah, I find it very challenging from a philosophical point of view because people have been, unpleasant for centuries, millennia
Mhm.
even, and now they've got the opportunity to blame AI, which is quite worrying.
And the one thing we know as, let's call it the characteristics of a person, is that one, we repeat ourselves. History does in its sense,
Hmm.
but on the reverse side, we are always looking to point a finger. And
No,
self
absolutely.
self responsibility does not exist in a person. A lot of times, not even in nations. So, well, AI is going to throw us for some loops.
Without a shadow of a doubt. But tell us about your organization and how you're using AI because you're going with that assistant kind of approach. How's it changed how you work and the success that you've had?
Yeah. So with Media Shark, which is the company that I started on my own,
Mhm.
and actually, funny enough, the company that I was let go from is named after another animal. And I thought, when I was so irritated and upset, and on the verge of tearing up when I got let go, I was like, I'm going to name a company after an animal that could eat their animal. And so I
I
came up
like
with
it.
Media Shark. Yeah, thank you. But really, what we're using it from, especially from assistant standpoint, is blog writing, scheduling.
Mhm.
We're using it from text message standpoint. And there's a lot of stuff going on with neurolinguistics when it comes down to pathology and how
Mhm.
words are sentenced together, and the commonalities and just regular speech patterns, things like that. And that can get really deep. But honestly, the easiest way to kind of explain what we're using it for in one area is SEO, and making sure we can get ranked on Google. And so we're using tools like Copymatic. And I
Mhm.
stay away from ChatGPT a little bit on this, just for the sole purpose of, sure, you can train ChatGPT to do certain things, and it's an amazing tool for sure. But sometimes you can find, a very perfect, not perfect, but very close to it, AI type tool that can solve your need without having to worry about all these pre-programs that you have to worry about, putting in or plugging in. So, what we've been doing is I've been testing building AI sites that are completely, I'll use a human to build it, but
Yeah.
it's completely automated with AI writing. Same thing with the blogs and things like that. And so that's one thing from an assistant standpoint. Man, we've been knocking out blogs like crazy using AI, and it's been really awesome. I will say that it's been kind of eye opening, the fact that sometimes a lot of companies, even SEO agencies and digital marketing agencies, and little businesses, have been paying firms low end of 500 US dollars to maybe even, 4 to 5,000 USD a month for blog writing and SEO content. When now these AI assistants come in, and I mean, it takes you 2 hours to plan, your whole week, from blogs being done and scheduled. So that assistant has come in very handy for us and, some of our clients as well.
Sounds like it. And so what was the main tool you're using there? Say that one again.
Yep, it's called Copymatic.
Copymatic. Well, we're definitely going to have a look in that one.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you've seen people using AI, others, what is kind of the most common mistakes you've seen them make?
Well, before I say that, I think it's funny, for the title in itself is, you can't spell assistant without AI, but you also can't spell ass, to be clear, because and here's where I think we roll into some problems. I think we almost treat it as if we can multitask. We're going to use AI in every aspect, and the problem is this still is an in-depth study. So you just don't go, and think this is like a high school program of I'm going to learn this to a point, and then I'll move to the next subject. If you really want to understand AI and make it, the most powerful and applicable tool for yourself, it needs to start with a full understanding and how to use it. I think one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing is people jumping from one tool to the next without fully learning and applying it the right way before jumping to the next subject. I also see a lot of it too, where people are getting frustrated because it's not easy, and it's not going to be easy. I mean, that's the benefit of doing this is that it will take some load off you, but you still have to be the person, let's say the architect. You still have to know how to draw it. You still have to know how to build it. Let's say meet the codes and customs of how something needs to
Mhm,
be done.
mhm.
But you can't just walk into, let's say, Home Depot and just buy a bunch of wood and the nails and everything and just start, building this house. And that's where one of the biggest mistakes I see nonstop is everybody just jumping into this AI bandwagon. And it's like they've never played this sport before. And there's just so many areas that you need to be more have a stronger foundation at than rather than just saying, hey, we have a tool that solves every problem.
So it sounds to me like you're seeing a disconnect between what
Mhm.
AI can really achieve and what people believe it can achieve.
Absolutely. I think a great example is, diet and nutrition. You can
Mhm,
say all you want is, hey, I'm on a healthy diet. I'm doing, I don't know, keto or the Atkins diet or something like that. But
mhm,
you actually
mhm.
understand, like, your macros, your micros. You understand like why you're eating what you're eating, what you're staying away from for the purpose of that. Other than are you just following, some book and you're like, hey, this is the best way to apply it. And I think that's really the fad aspect is that you see people picking up this AI and like, oh yes, oh yeah, I'm on the Atkins diet. And it's like you really don't understand the nutrition and the issues or probably even sometimes problems that can arise from a diet that's not perfect for you and your body. And I think that's what we're going to see here is that you're going to see a lot of AI plugins, a lot of AI utilization, but you're going to see a lot of missed opportunity, a lot of areas that sure, and I guess I should say it like this: sure, it made your speed, your productivity faster by maybe 20%, but it wasn't the 80 to 82% it could have been. And that's where I think the disconnect is. It's not the fact that I think
Mhm.
it's not going to help everybody. It's just the efficiency and how much it'll help everybody is going to be a huge disconnect with what we're seeing with people moving this into their life and their work life.
So I see a lot of people seeing AI and in particular ChatGPT, and let's not vilify it because it is a great tool. I think we're both
Yep.
on the same page there.
Mhm.
But I see people thinking it's a magic wand that's going to solve all their problems, and it clearly isn't. What I also see is a real danger of content all sounding very similar or looking very similar. Is that something that you see too?
Very much so. If you really think about a code itself, this theory is really based off if, then, and or statements. And the language of pathology to neurolinguistics and structure of talk and writing people are like, "Oh, it's so cool." As talk about Ricky Gervais, talk about I don't know Conan O'Brien to anybody. I mean, I don't know, just anyone really out there. You can have a voice and make it sound a certain way, but it doesn't mean that you know Joey over here in Florida, and Richard in Australia over here is asking the same blog the same question or the tool the same question, and our output might be so similar that Google or say system is seeing such a repetitive nature and just the way the structure in itself is being formed that you're going to see a lot of repetitive opportunity where flags, issues, inconsistencies, and then that's when we go, oh, it's the AI's fault. No, I don't think so. I think it's the lack of human interference on our end of not realizing that and how repetitive it really is. So I definitely think that's there for sure.
Very interesting. So tell me about some of the big success stories that you've had
Mhm.
where you've used AI and it surprised you.
Yeah, so we've had one brand in particular. We've increased organic traffic upwards to 300%. And this was on a brand
Wow.
new company. Yeah. And that was just straight putting on 10 blogs a day, AI written.
Mhm.
Takes us about an hour and a half in the morning for this client specifically. And actually, it's funny. I can't say who it is or
Of
the
course.
situation, but actually I own it. So I spend time doing it. And I'll say takes about an hour and a half a day. And I've been doing this, early first thing in the morning for the last couple of months, and it'll be something that we could probably sell eventually for six figures, if not maybe seven, and something that completely built from scratch. That's an e-commerce brand that is drop shipped and all AI written.
Mhm.
And that was a huge win personally because I got to oversee the whole thing. It was my idea and then just got to grow with it. The other thing too is I've really seen it interesting when I'm showing clients the competitive research that goes in with this. Using AI to scrub online and pull up ads that your competitors are running. Use it to basically systematically tell you what people are bidding on and how much they're spending on advertising. It really
Mhm.
gives you a really cool look at it, at what's going on in the competitive marketplace. So that for me is a huge success anyway. I think I believe it's Rockefeller who mentioned, it's one of the most important information, or one of the most important things is to know your own business. But secondly, is to know what your competitors are doing online, or not online, but what your competitors are doing. And so I've taken that from the online standpoint of, for all our clients, we of course dive into their business, but we need to know what their competitors are doing. And that way, one, we can adjust and make sure that we're either maintaining or, increasing in certain areas, but most importantly, I mean, it's given us amazing insights and it's all AI driven. And that's been a huge help in the sense of looking in the mirror and, even choosing paths that we'd like to go down based on what competitors are doing online.
This is some recurring advice I'm hearing from lots of different people I talk to.
Mhm.
What they're saying is one of the first things you should do, yes, absolutely understand your company. There may be things that get reflected back to you that you aren't aware of, and that's very important. But use AI to really look at your competitors. And
Mhm.
that's an incredibly powerful research tool.
Yeah. I mean, think of it like dating in a sense. If you could go, let's say you found the perfect person for you, whoever that may be, and you could literally use a tool to figure out exactly, let's say him or her or whoever, see all the problems or all the issues
Hmm.
and things that they like, they didn't, blah, blah, blah. And you could basically build a summary report and see how the last 2 years have been, the wins, the failures, all that stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then you could bring that to your life moving forward. And I think it could be hugely powerful, creepy for sure, but very powerful in making right decisions. And in business, that really is money, money and time. And especially after this whole COVID situation, this pandemic, there's a lot of businesses that don't have time anymore. It's that we need to rebound as fast as we can. And I think that AI is going to be even more of an assistance and more of a, let's call it a water of life to them than it would be, maybe to some of the online businesses that, maybe weren't affected so heavily during the pandemic. So AI definitely has some very unique stuff. And I think that competitive area is just, our competitive intelligence is going to be massive if utilized correctly.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you see the media portraying AI in a inconsistent way?
Absolutely. I think the media does everything wrong currently. And that's where I think, I won't get into it, but that's example is politics. It's a great example
Mhm.
of everything being what good, bad, ugly, whatever. That's AI. I mean, if on Anchorman, as dumb as that movie is, I love it. But I always talk about the aspect of when you first start Ron Burgundy, this Anchorman guy, is reporting on happy everyday news, and nobody watches the news in the town. And then all of a sudden they start reporting on fake stuff and tragic stuff and everything's up
Mhm.
in flames, and all of a sudden the attention is right to the screen. And that's my
Yep.
problem, is that the human, let's say, eyeballs are focused on fear and urgency, and missing out. And that's the way AI is going to be treated. I mean, you look at anything, for example, like anything that's going on with the Tesla truck, and this is just
Yep.
a good small example. They are
Yep.
mentioning, hey, they're behind on schedule. Oh my gosh, Elon doesn't have it together. This doesn't happen. And it's just like, okay, it doesn't really affect me, but it's just you don't hear anything positive. So I just don't see AI being talked about in a way that's like, Richard, AI is going to help you grow and change your business. And Joey, you better utilize it like this, and this is going to be the new wave of opportunity. Instead, it's like, or online brands are dropping AI because lack of issues or lack of tracking, and It's like, yeah, 100% that stuff's there, but what's the overall story going on? Like, what do we see more of is what I'd like to see. Now, that's why I think the news and media is just gonna, I think they're gonna butcher it for a while. I really do, until they see it. If not, maybe they won't even say it at all.
So you mentioned earlier on the whole neuro-linguistic approach, and you're obviously very careful with the language that you use when you're putting out any content. And it sounds to me like you're seeing the negative aspects of that particular approach being used about AI within the media.
I think so. I really do. Like I said, I think fear and lack of, let's say, fear of missing out. I think that's really where they're going to make their story at. And I really do. I think AI is way more advanced than, I mean, shoot, not to sit here and talk about the United States here, but I think, the average reading level, shoot, it's like fifth or seventh grade, maybe, and
Mhm,
so does the people absorbing the news actually understand what's going on with AI? So if that's the case, is what we're talking about at a 10th grade, even a college level? And so how could somebody in that situation understand? Not saying that's really the case going on, but that could be across the world. And we have to dumb this situation down so the average person can really understand it when, we really need to be educating ourselves up versus having the news bring it down to us. I think that's where we're going to run into our problems, especially going into the language aspects of what's really happening inside the tool.
is that old line, of course, you tell a lie enough times, eventually it becomes the truth, which is a really worrying scenario. And sadly, I think that's happening a lot with AI in the media, especially the whole line of it's going to take all of our jobs, which is just simply not true, in my humble opinion.
No, I mean, you look at Walmart or, any other of the stores out there. I mean, yeah, the automation. I can't. Just today, I went to the grocery store and had to get some food. I get my dog some bones, so they're quiet while we
Mhm,
talk in the other room. But the self checkout, the line was longer than the self checkout, but it was faster than waiting in any of the lines that had a couple
mhm.
people in it. And you do not see the self checkout lines taking care of everybody. Where the point of you have no more cashiers. And it's the same thing with AI. I mean, we've been saying, what. Early 2000s or the 1999 move over to 2000, computers are going to crash. That was the newest news. And now
Oh,
we're,
yes, the Y2K, the whole thing there.
yeah, let alone 2012, the Mayan calendar got it right. I mean, there's just always a fear base. So I think AI is just, hey, whatever they can do to make you turn your head and watch, that's going to be the issue. But I would be so curious to know a poll across the world, if not, in specific countries, is what is AI and
Mhm.
how does the average person define it? And I don't think they could. I mean, I know I struggle with it, in the sense of, how and what exactly it is, especially, I can explain it in my world and how I apply it, but the
Yep.
overall idea of what AI is can be hard, to explain sometimes.
You mentioned the great example there of the automated checkout.
Mhm.
And one of the things I've come across and one of the things I've been told about is when you get, say, some older people who they go out and they talk to the person on the checkout and they have a bit of a conversation, that could be
Mhm.
the one and only human interaction that person might have that day. And they look forward to it. But
Mhm.
obviously, the automated checkout takes that away. Do you see AI taking away a lot of the human element of our interactions?
I think the lazy aspect it does. I really believe this. I think, the problem that we've had is we've had a very luxurious opportunity to make money, to have opportunity to be in front of things and have access to things. I mean, shoot,
Hmm.
what do they say? The first time we landed on the moon, there's more power in our phones than there was in that computer room that helped that.
Considerably more, yeah.
Yeah. And so, do we see that technology has taken over all the jobs at NASA in that situation, or just, and that's kind of a crude example, but to be
Mhm.
transparent, you really look at everything going around it. We thought, hey, we're going Zoom during the COVID situation in the pandemic. We're never going to have to go back in the offices, and now employers are pulling people back in the office. We the thing is we're still a herded animal. Like, we still have to be in communities, still have to be in groups. The moment humans isolate themselves, we run into we run into disease, we run into a lot of issues where the system
Mhm.
crashes. Just like you see in pack animals. The In my opinion, human psychology, human environment has to be maintained in a certain type of ecosystem. AI will not replace it, but it will help clean up the laziness. For example, if you have a secretary or even a CEO or certain things that maybe I don't know, CTO, somebody who basically is doing a certain job that guys could automate, and that person's been sitting back and not been applying themselves in the way in the world which they probably should, or where the business realizes that, hey, this person is a much more of a cost than they are an asset. Yeah, AI is going to replace people, and it's the same thing, though, in my opinion, of the person who crosses over a border and willing to work 2 to 3 times harder than the person sitting at home on the couch.
Yeah.
Is did did the border issue cause that? No, or is it our own laziness? And that's where I think AI has to be looked at from a very clear glass of, is this really AI replacing jobs, or is it really I'm being basically upgraded? Instead, we look at it like, oh, we're downgrading to AI. No, I don't think so. And I think
Not
that's
at
why it's
all.
even more important. Oh, good. Sorry.
It's so no. So it sounds like then that you see AI is actually raising the truth to a level of visibility in a lot of cases,
And I think it's also accountability.
which is you can't spell assistant without AI. That reminds me of the old Ricky Gervais line where there's that old metaphor, that old line about there's no I in team, but then Ricky
Mhm.
comes back and says, "Well, if you look really hard, you can see me." Which at the at the end of the day is kind of worrying thing to agree with, but I do agree with it. So
Yeah.
but you've got to look at yourself without a
Yep.
shadow of a doubt in all these scenarios.
Well, and that's what I thought about, weirdly enough, was that when I thought about the A, well, let's just say the first 3 letters of the word assistant. I thought
Yeah,
after, the AI, but you can't spell, those 3 words without 3 letters without assistant as well. So, and
without
that's
a
where
doubt.
and that's really where I think AI is going to be at. It's going to be there to make you look bad. Maybe you're going to point fingers, or it's going to be there to be your assistant, and it's going to be what you make it. And I think there's a really great analogy or a quote. I believe it's from a Cherokee chief, and he was like, you're given basically 2 wolves on your shoulder, and whichever one you feed will be the one that grows. And so if we look at AI in the sense of the wolf that's going to cause our problems, that's all we're going to see. And that's all the problems we're going to run into. And it just won't help us grow. But if we look at it from the wolf that's going to be there to help us grow, help us move forward, help us be more productive in life and in business, then, that means feeding, means learning, means adapting, it learns applying. And I think that's where, AI is going to really stand up. It's going to be, how do you use it, and how much do you understand, and how much do you apply it?
And I love that my metaphors are all about British comedians, and you use ancient wisdom to bring it to the surface.
I might have been watching some TV before this. So can't say I'm influenced, but maybe just a little bit.
Hey, Joey, what's that one piece of advice that people should take away from our conversation today?
It is completely up to you and how you want to apply this. Either you can blame the situation in AI on what you're dealing with, or you can basically apply it and leverage it to upgrade a lot of parts of your life and also your business as well.
Fantastic advice. Joey, where can people find you and what exciting projects do you have on the horizon that they should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Instagram, usually if you want to reach out to me directly, I'm at that marketing guy. So that's pretty easy. There's underscores under each one of those. So that underscore
Mhm.
marketing underscore guy. And then if anything, you want to check out the business, it's gomediashark.com. Check that out. Or we're actually building a new site called mediashark.ai, but that's still in the works. But either one of
Look
those
forward to seeing
places,
that.
yeah, and any one of those places, and check us out, or even hit me up if you got some questions. But yeah, one of the new things I'm working on, honestly, is I'm going to pick a couple different very unique type industries that are very specific to, let's say, very hard to get into. And I'm going to completely build a website around AI, completely do the chatbot automation. I'm going to do the blogs, and I'd like to be able to build a plug and play where you could basically take this template and plug it right into your business with all the automation already set up. But that isn't specific to something that's already out there. This is going to be industry specific and not something that's more on like a CRM kind of thing.
Mhm, mhm.
So outside of all the fun stuff I'm doing with what I love, but that's on more on the business sector.
Well, I would love to have you on our live events to actually talk about that because it sounds very, very exciting indeed.
That would be fantastic.
Joey, thanks for the conversation today. Really, really interesting. And I love your perspective on everything you're doing.
Richard, hey, thank you for having me.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending this show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at aiadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.